everybody? Welcome back to Popping the Popcorn. I'm your host, Katie, and today I have Brian, the Dragon Movie Guy. How you doing, Brian?
Great. I'm doing great, Katie. Thanks for having me on.
You're so very welcome. Thanks for coming on and hanging out on Creators Corner today.
Absolutely. I had a lot of fun watching some of your recent episodes in preparation. So, yeah, this should be a lot of fun. I'm really excited.
Thanks. What was your favorite episode that it was?
The most recent one, I believe it was the most recent one with
With Kyle?
No, not something Hart. Was it Casey Hart?
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, she was talking about how she was a huge fan of yeah, I said I watched. I swear I wathed.
No, I believe you. You're good. I put you right on the spot. It's all good.
She said she was a huge fan of the what do you call it, the show from the 90s, which they actually shot in my old hometown.
Oh, okay.
I
know what you're
Kyle
talking
MacLachlan and anyhow, it was the one with Kyle MacLachlan and done by David Lynch and
okay.
Fire in the Sky was they did a feature film adaptation, and I'm from the Seattle area and from the northern suburbs of Seattle, and they actually shot the series in Everett, which is actually the Everett Mall Cinemas was my first job I ever had. So started being a movie fan early on. So it was sort of that funny, like, oh yeah, I used to watch that show a little bit. So
right, that's awesome. But yeah, I put you on the spot there, so you're okay. I like to put people on the spot just to catch them off guard. Sometimes.
Yeah, I brain fart every once in a while, so I don't know if it's early Alzheimer's or who knows. But
who knows? Everybody has brain farts, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Hi, Dan. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Hi, Joseph. Hi, Rob.
Hey, Rob.
Twin Peaks with Jamie. Yeah, Jamie's a huge Twin Peaks
That's
fan.
it. Twin Peaks. Yeah.
Yep. She loves it. That's one of our friends, and she's a great friend. So, guys, go check her out. Also, go check out Brian's YouTube channel if you have not. He does amazing content over there, and he's also starting his own like Creators Corner type of thing where he gets other people to come on. How's that going for you?
It's good. Right now I'm just doing the shorter version. I'm calling it Getting to Know ... I'm just doing it as like a sub feature of my live streams where after I introduce somebody, I ask, do like a quick little 5 or 10 minute interview to try and get to know them a little bit. Cause as I've been trying to launch my live stream and my podcast, I found out very quickly that my existing pool of co-creators, I went through everyone very quickly as I was starting my podcast, and everyone at first was like, "Oh yeah, come on," and then I was like, "Hey, you want to come on again?" They're like, "Yeah, let's do it once a month." So I've been reaching out to a lot more people, and I figure it's a good way to break the ice. And after we phone tag or internet tag back and forth, it's a really good way to get to literally get to know somebody. So
right.
Yeah, I would like to do more longer form interviews as well, but I'm starting off with just sort of a ranking format and, hey, what movies do you like? And just doing an occasion for it. Like I did one on Thursday for football season. So it was just, top 5 football movies of all time. So
yeah, that was an awesome episode. I checked that out and I thought you did a great job. And that guest, I never heard of that guest before, so I went and subbed to him and everything. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's Eric Fish Snyder. He's a bartender here in Las Vegas who was also a journalism major. So I had a 17-year career in TV news. So he's a guy that knows the guy, and he knows a little bit of everybody. So he's such a great he's a good friend, and he can talk about any subject as the good bartenders can do. He can talk about anything. So had him on to talk about football, and he does his podcast called the Fat Fish Podcast. And he actually has like former Los Angeles, Oakland, and now Las Vegas Raiders on his guest too. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
So what got you into movies?
I have been a movie fan my entire life, and one of my I go back and forth, and just by release date. So I'm 47 now. I was born in the mid 70s, and I have two, I guess, first memories of going to the theater. The first one is Empire Strikes Back, because I
Mhm.
don't remember seeing Star Wars in theaters, like Star Wars: A New Hope in theaters, because I was, I think, 2, but I was 5 in the year 1980. So I remember seeing Luke go into the cave while he's training on Dagobah, and like getting
Mhm.
freaked out by the dark side Luke and the decapitation, and like, ah, gotta run to the bathroom, get away from decapitated Luke. And then
Mhm.
I have a memory like the following year of watching ET in theaters, with my parents and my sister. And my
That's
sister was like
awesome.
2 years old at the time, so
Right?
it was sort of like one of those old school theaters where they had converted like a just like a like a really good a grand old Opry, like a big, huge stage
Mhm.
theater, like an actual theater, and they had
Right.
converted one of those into a movie theater. And I remember sitting in one of the front rows, front and scattered seats, and my poor sister was crying her way through ET and Elliot and all that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
those are a couple of my first memories, and I've just been a huge movie fan my entire life. Worked at
Mhm.
a movie theater for 7 years through high school and college. Sort of was on the Van Wilder plan a little bit there, but yeah. And
Mhm.
then I had a career in TV news, so now I'm kind of trying to go back and trying to do this YouTube thing uh,
Right.
as a job. I mean, I'm nowhere near ready for that yet, but hopefully as I build up the audience,
Well, your
eventually.
content's good over there, so you do a good job. Especially I like when you do the shorts and you just get out of the movie theater. Those are always fun.
Thank you. Yeah, I've gotten a lot better at those. Initially, it would take me like an hour to shoot one. Because
Mhm.
while I spent 17 years in TV news, almost all of it was behind the camera. So trying
Mhm.
to build up my on-camera skills has been the thing that's just surprisingly has taken a longer time than I thought it would.
Mhm.
Because I figured it would be one of those things where, oh, I've been around microphones and cameras for 20 years or almost 20 years. It'll be a natural. No, practice.
No.
I
Yeah.
so now I can
But
now whenever I go to the movies, I bust out. I as soon as I get out of the theater, I can do 5 or 6 different shorts
mhm.
in about an hour. And I
That's pretty
started
good though.
doing. Oh yeah, thank you. And I started doing instant reaction as well to get the horizontal video taken care of too. So I'm trying a lot of different experiments with out of theater reactions, and I do
Right.
instant reactions and best part, worst part, best spoilers, all that kind of stuff. So
Those are a lot of fun. If y'all haven't checked those out, those are so much fun. You guys should check those out. I always crack up laughing on some of those.
well,
They're so much fun though.
I try and have fun with them even if the movie's not good. And I don't necessarily like dunking on bad movies, but sometimes a movie is just so bad that you have to dunk on them.
Right.
Like Gran Turismo was that way for me.
I have
Like
not seen that yet. Should I
it
watch that?
no, like if it's wannabe Days of Thunder, but Days of
Uh-huh.
Thunder did it better 20 years ago or 30 years ago. So yeah, I like the idea of it, but it was
Mhm.
yeah, it was not good. It should have been a streaming show.
I like the video games. I used to play the video games all the time.
Yeah, and the video games are fun, and but the problem was is they you could tell they really wanted to have Orlando Bloom be like the point of view character, and look it, he created this, or not not his character, but
Mhm.
like he's representing that whole aspect of it, and like the first
Mhm.
15 minutes is just anyway, it's a little bit too unfocused as far as a film goes, I think. But, yeah, no,
Gotcha.
it's a lot of fun, and, Archie Mediqui, the guy who plays Jan Mardenborough, actually does a really good
Mhm.
job.
Gotcha. Hi, Don. Welcome in, and thank you for moderating the chat. He's my good friend. If y'all have not checked out Night Owl Movie Talk, go check him out because he's awesome.
Absolutely.
And he's my bro from another mother, so he's there to moderate the chat. Thank you, Don.
Absolutely.
So what's your favorite genre of movie?
I think I go back and forth, but I love superhero, sci-fi, um, action, and comedies. Those are sort of my big ones. So the last 10, 12 years or whatever it is now, for me, it's the MCU. Like, and yeah, Phase 4. Not gonna lie, it's been a little rough from
Right.
trying to recover after Endgame and trying to expand, and then the pandemic, and we all know the history. But I love
Right.
superhero films. I still remember watching the Christopher Reeve Superman movies in theaters, so I love all of that. Like, for example, Batman '89 came out when I was 14. So all of the 90s Batman movies, and then starting in their 99 or 2000 when X-Men and came out, and Spider-Man came out. Yeah, I've been a huge
Right.
superhero fan the entire time, and I'm
I
also a
like
huge
them.
Star Wars.
I like them too, but I'm not as big as like some of those like Marvel fans or the DC fans. I'm a casual fan. That's what I tell people. I mean, like I do get the universe, I do get them, but I just don't deep dive them just because I never read the comics, so I don't know like a lot about them. So I
And
just don't deep dive.
I never read the comics either, which I think sets me apart from a lot of the comic book fans. Because, like, whenever anyone says, "Well, they didn't do it that way in the comics," that's how I know that, oh, I just lost somebody. Because yeah, I totally respect comic books and graphic novels as an art form, but it's just I'm so short attention span that sitting down to actually read a comic or read a book. Like, my mom and dad were huge voracious readers, so like when they
Oh,
would say, well, the book of Jurassic Park is better than the movie, the book was better. Like, well, yeah, I like the movies better.
I'm a huge reader. I love to read. So like I read like the Hunger Games, Harry Potter, all those.
Mm.
And I'm just like and I have read the Jurassic Park book and it wasn't bad,
It was
you
way
know.
different though. That's actually one of the few books that I've read all the way through that I then saw
Mhm.
the movie. And it was interesting structurally how different it was, because
Oh, thank you, Zach.
oh, thanks, Zach. Oh yeah, I had Zach on a couple weeks ago. Zach's great. Yeah.
Yeah, Zach's really nice. I love Zach. He'll be on tomorrow night at 7 p.m. for
Oh, great.
Creators Corner.
I'll have to check that out too. Yeah, Zach is great. I caught him on Zach Milne's live stream a couple weeks ago and reached out, and he came on, and we talked. We talked our fall. Did we do fall movies or we did summer movies? I can't remember. I did. I had two live streams on back-to-back days, and it was kind of a blur. As I'm trying to going back later, like a week later, I'm trying to edit everything now and re-release it,
Uh-huh.
and it's fun, but it's like trying to remember who was on what show.
Right.
Hard to
That's always
remember
how it
sometimes.
happens, right? That's why I create
Yeah.
the playlist on my channel. I create the playlist so that way I can go back and go, okay, this person's on, this person's on, you know. Um, but Zach's awesome. If you guys have not gone and subscribed to Zach's Attack
Yeah.
reviews, go subscribe to him because he's awesome and he does really good content. And you guys know that I only bring people on that I think are really good people. So there you go.
Yeah, Zach was really
Like-minded people
nice.
like me. That's what I should say.
Yeah, Zach was really
um,
nice, and he brought, like, I don't know, 10, 15 people on into the chat section
mhm,
when he came on. So that was really cool too. Actually having a really active chat, because that is
right.
something I'm still working on, is building up the chat. So,
Well,
but yeah,
you do
Zach is great.
good though. Actually, Brian and I have actually known Brian for almost 2 years now. We kind of started our channels around the same time. If y'all didn't know that, I met him when I met like all the Cinema Squad people. That's how I met Brian, was through them.
Yeah, yeah, all the Cinema Squad guys I like. Yeah, Sean
Mhm.
and Jonathan and Dan from the Upside Down. Yeah, it's a really great group of guys, and they have
Mhm.
a really good energy together too.
Yeah, they do. They're nice people. If you guys have not gone to check them out, go check them out as well. Because they also just started their Cinema Squad channel. Right now they're doing the Soka series, so go follow them as well.
Yeah,
And they're amazing.
I've been watching their episode reviews, and they're doing the Rule of Three with
Hmm.
Jonathan and Anthony and Jace doing
Yes.
doing the episode reviews. So yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and they're awesome people over there. Here we go. Let me get their channel so that way you guys can go follow them. They also all have individual channels as well,
Yep.
but it's hard to get all their channels. So if you do want to subscribe to their channel separately, it's in their link as well. So here goes Cinema Squad. I just put it into the chat so you guys
Oh,
can
nice.
check them out. And I'm surprised though that they're only at 355 subscribers over there.
Oh yeah. Well, I remember they for the first 6 months or a year that they were doing Cinema
Yeah.
Squad, they were rotating between everybody's individual channels.
Mhm.
And so for the actual like the Cinema Squad channel by itself now, I think that came along about a year ago, I think.
Yeah, it did.
I can't remember exactly, but
Yeah.
um
Yeah, it did.
yeah. They have really good content, and they focus on a lot of Oscar stuff, like even year round. Like, so they'll do
Mhm.
like an early Oscar, because Oscar's
Yes.
happening in March or April. They'll do like
Mhm.
monthly or semi, every couple months. Like, hey, what have been some of the Oscar nominations, potential Oscar
Mhm.
nominations from summer, early summer, fall, that sort of thing too. So,
Yeah. And then there goes Zach's channel if you guys want to go check out Zach because he's amazing.
yep.
Um, eh, do you like Star Wars better than Star Trek, or do you like both?
Ooh, that's tough. I would say it's sort of like a football and baseball thing. Like I have more
Mhm.
passion for Star Wars, but
Mhm.
I have more of an intellectual attachment to Star Trek because
Okay.
there's so much more Star Trek in terms of
Mhm.
content, in terms of movies and TV shows. Going back, because for me, the love of Star Wars was the original three films. Like
Right.
Star Wars Episode One, The Phantom Menace, didn't come out until what 99, so I would have been 24 at that point.
Mhm.
And while I love all Star Wars, I don't love all Star Wars equally. So the prequels are kind of, they're still Star Wars,
Right.
but
No,
but
I tell
and
people don't get me started on the last one,
yeah.
the prequel. Don't get me started on the last one.
Well, and then when the sequel trilogy came along after George Lucas sold, I liked
Mhm.
Force Awakens. I did not like at all The Last Jedi.
I didn't either.
And while I liked The Rise of Skywalker better than Last Jedi, the
Mhm.
filmmaking was clunkier. Like at least it finally had an optimistic outlook, but
Right.
the whole Force dyad thing, like for example, have you seen do you watch Honest Trailers or Pitch Meeting at all?
Mm-mm.
So Pitch Meeting is done by a Canadian comedian named Ryan George, and he
Mhm.
poses as the screenwriter and as a producer guy. So he has producer guy and screenwriter guy, and they sort of
Mhm.
pitch each other different movies. And his pitch meeting for The Rise of Skywalker was freaking hilarious.
I'll have
Um,
to go check that out.
yeah, it's because it's one of those. Well, and then we have a forced dyad, a forced dyad, a
Mhm.
forced dyad. Like, what is a forced dyad? So it's just kind of the ridiculousness of
Right.
how the
That is
idea of
funny.
the forced dyad, and like, oh, there's Adam Driver, and yay, he's the forced dyad. So yeah, I
Mhm.
like the return to optimism that the Rise of Skywalker, or the Rise of Skywalker was, but yeah, The Last Jedi was not great in my book, but I still love Star Wars. And as Ahsoka's been coming out, I've been watching for the
Mhm.
first time a lot of the animated Star Wars shows because
Oh, I love those. I love those better than the movies. Oh, did I say that? Oops.
yeah. Well, and I made the mistake of going to watch the animated Star Wars movie that came out in 2008 or 9,
Mhm.
and I didn't like it at all because the quality of the animation wasn't there yet. So
Right.
here I am comparing it to a feature film because it was released as a feature film. And
Mhm.
I was like, well, I saw it. It looks like it's for kids. It looks like it's on Nickelodeon, which it was. I believe it was on Nickelodeon at least. So I just based off of that feature film, that first feature film that was animated, I didn't watch it at all. But in
Mhm.
preparation for Ahsoka, they had Disney Plus had a playlist of like 20
Yep.
episodes.
Mhm.
And so I just kind of went through and was going through all of those and going like, oh well, sure enough, the first season is a little rough, especially the animation, but the story is sort of interesting. And then once you get to like the second season, the storylines get a lot better. They end Most of the episodes end
Mhm.
very abruptly, but the storytelling is actually pretty good. And then after all that, I went through and started watching Mandalorian and the other live action Star Wars stuff that's on Disney Plus,
Right.
and
Mhm.
yeah, so I like all those too.
Yeah, my favorite out of all of them, the animated one is Rebels. Really like Rebels,
Mm.
and then I also really like the Clone Wars when you're introduced to Ahsoka and she becomes their apprentice to Anakin. I wish the movies would have told that as well. That would have been kind of cool, but I understand they only have a certain amount of time. But I think that would have been cool to put it in the movies, put her in there.
Yeah, because so much happens between episodes 2 and 3 especially,
Hmm.
that I'm glad that they did the Clone Wars TV show or the cartoon, because it does fill in a lot of those gaps. And yeah, I agree, like, because I think they had a member of Ahsoka's species shown in
Yes, they
episode
did.
2 or 3. It
Yeah, they
wasn't
did.
Ahsoka. Yeah, um but yeah, it was, I like her character, and,
Mhm.
I really like Rosario Dawson, so
Yeah,
I'm a
I do
huge fan of
too.
hers. Um,
I really liked her in Sin City. I don't know if you've seen Frank Miller's Sin City. I really liked her in there.
yeah, I'm a huge Robert Rodriguez fan, Sin
Me too.
City and, Machete, both those 2 especially, and then the Mexico series where he did, what was it?
Once Upon a Time in Mexico. That one.
Yeah, because it was Once Upon a Time in Mexico. El Mariachi was the first one, and then I forget what the second one was. Desperado, that was it.
Yes, Desperado.
Um,
Yeah.
because like El Mariachi was actually his first film that he did out of film school, and
Mhm.
if you look at all of the Blu-rays and DVDs, Robert Rodriguez is a huge proponent of people who love film and want to be filmmakers learning how to do film and different film techniques. So one of the
Mhm.
special features he does on his Blu-rays is something called 10-minute film school, which is basically just sort of like what anyone would do with a YouTube video now, with like, oh, this is how you do a Texas switch, or this is how you
Mhm.
do whatever. And
Right.
he talks about how he made El Mariachi that way. Because
Mhm.
he said, well, what do you have access to? And he had access to a pet turtle and a
Mhm.
mariachi costume and a
Right.
guitar.
Yeah, and Don saying he likes Clone Wars and Rebels as well. Hi,
Oh,
hi, FC Paranormal, and yeah, and then he's saying great choice for Robert Rodriguez. Yeah, I love Robert Rodriguez movies. I loved him. I love Spy Kids. I was like, wait, he did Spy Kids and he did Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Those are way two different movies.
yeah. Now, I have to admit too that I have not seen any of the Spy Kids franchise.
Hmm.
Just because by the time that Spy Kids came out, I was in my late 20s. So,
Right.
because I'm 75 as we're sitting here speaking, but uh, no, I just it for whatever reason, it just, time and place in my life,
Mhm.
it wasn't something that I was particularly keen on watching, but I definitely
Right.
want to go back and rewatch, do
They're
a deep
they're
dive
fun
for.
movies. They're fun movies because you're 10 years older than me. So you're the same age as my older brother. So I watched those. I think I was like maybe 13 or 14 when the first Spy Kids came out, something like
Mm.
that. And then Shark Boy and Lava Girl came out, and I was like, "What the heck is this?" And it was by Robert Rodriguez too. I was like, "What the heck is this?" I know it's a kid's book, but what the heck is this? You
Was
know?
that like a direct sequel? Because they seem very similar.
Yes, it's kind of like a sequel, but it's not really a sequel. It's like its own thing. It has Taylor Lautner in it from Twilight.
Oh, I didn't know they were. I didn't know he was in. Interesting.
He's in Shark Boy and Lava Girl. He plays Shark Boy.
Oh, nice. Yeah, because I remember the girl that was in the girl that was in the other one.
Yeah,
That I'm
she's in a
brain.
lot of stuff now. She's actually married to the guy from the band. They're also on Hallmark Channel a lot. They do Hallmark Channel movies now.
Mm.
But he was on the Nickelodeon show. I think it was Naked Brothers Band or some kind of band like that. He was on the Nickelodeon show in the
Huh.
early 2000s.
Nice. Yeah,
Hmm.
I go back to the Nickelodeon days when they had You Can't Do That on Television
Oh yeah, I love that
with
show.
with Alanis Morissette, where everyone would get slimed all the time.
Hmm.
Like, I still remember they had a show called Kids Incorporated,
Yep, I
which
remember that one too.
yeah, it came out, like, before Disney had the Mickey Mouse Club remake with Britney Spears and all them.
Yeah.
Kind of a similar show too, but,
Hmm. I remember those. I remember watching it every Saturday night and it coming on, and my brothers and I we would always watch it because my older brother is like 10 years older than us, so that's how we also got introduced to like older stuff because
mm.
what 5-year-old watches horror movies? You know what I'm saying?
I hope not too many.
But we
Like, I
did.
can't
We watched
imagine a
them,
five-year-old sitting down to watch Saw.
right? But we watched like Freddy, Jason, all those because my older brother would watch them.
Mm.
So my mom would be like, if they have nightmares, guess what? You're laying in bed with them.
How was that, like, watching Freddy and Jason at 5 years old, 5, 6 years old?
That they scared the crap out of me. I thought like because my older brother would make up these stories and tell us these things and be like, Freddy's in the trees and stuff, and he's gonna come get you if you're bad.
That's awesome. Yeah, that is one of the holes, in my movie milieu of movies types that I watch. Like, I don't watch a ton of horror. Like,
Hmm.
horror, westerns and period pieces are ones that I need
Hmm.
to that I have a hole in my repertoire in terms of watching a
Right.
ton of. So, like, with
Hmm.
horror, I've watched every Scream movie,
Hmm.
because Scream 1 came out when I was working at the theater.
Hmm.
Um, hey, Rob's Vintage Video. Um,
He's, he's saying that's a
oh,
Canadian
yeah.
show. It is.
Yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
Because yeah,
Shout out to
Barf's
Barf's Burgers.
Burgers.
I don't know what that is. What is that from?
I think it was a sketch on You Can't Do That on Television, because
Oh, okay.
I think, it's been a while.
Hey,
Uh,
Jim.
hey, Jim.
Gotcha.
Um, but yeah, it's yeah, horror is something I need to get more into. Like, I Saw 1 in theaters
Hmm.
when it first came out, and I went with a friend, and the only reason I went was because a bartender friend of mine had said, "You have to go watch this movie." I'm like,
Right.
horror's really not my thing." And he said, "You have to go." I'm like, "All right, I'll trust you." And I literally went to watch with a friend, and we sat down and watched the whole thing, and it was really, really good. But it was the only time I've ever literally come out of a theater at the end of a movie, not said a
Mhm.
single word, walked out to my car and drove home, and
Right.
didn't say a single thing after the movie. Like, that was the
Hmm.
weird thing about watching Saw 1 in theaters.
Right.
And then I saw Saw 2, and it was just sort of like, all right, it was all right, but it was not really my thing after that. So the
Right.
fact that we
Yeah.
have now have
I tell people I don't really like the Saw series. I mean, like I'll watch them, but I don't really like the. I think the traps and everything that they have them in are unique, but I don't really like I don't know what it would be called, but I just don't really like being trapped, like trap horror. I guess that's what you can call it, trapped horror.
oh. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, because there's horror, there's suspense,
Mhm.
there's Freddy and Jason, so there's bloodier horror, and then there's more like horror of the mind of the suspense
Yeah.
and the thriller part of it, Hitchcock style.
I'm more go towards paranormal horror and thriller horror. That's what I like. I'm
Mm.
gonna go and slashers. I like slashers because slashers don't really scare me.
Well, and they're different energies too. Like, what was it? The Black Hat or the Black Door that came out last summer,
Mhm.
where the little boys were getting kidnapped in the 80s.
Mhm.
That one was really good, but that was so much more suspense and thriller than horror, even though it was technically is a horror film.
Right.
But yeah, like stuff like that is real if it's really well done, I respect the filmmaking, but like stuff like Megan, I like the idea.
Black
It
phone.
the Black
Yeah,
Phone,
black.
yeah, that was
That was really
such
good.
yeah, it was such good filmmaking, because it's freaky and it almost kind of felt like, have you ever seen a
Mhm.
Disney horror film? Like
Yes.
The Black Cauldron and stuff? Like, it
Yes.
kind of felt
Mhm.
like that, where it's not blood and guts and it's not a rated R, slasher thing, but it
Mhm.
messes with your mind so much more.
Hey, Care. How are you? Hey, Carrie.
Hey, Carrie Crave Cinema, hi.
Yeah. So yeah, I loved Black Phone. I thought Ethan Hawke actually did a great job. I love Ethan Hawke. I like any
Uh,
movie he does, and I'll watch anything he does just because he's in it.
He is really good. I'm surprised. It's one of those things too where I'm actually kind of surprised that he hasn't made his way into the MCU or the
Mhm.
DCEU. Like, he's one of the few big stars that hasn't made it into the either one of the superhero franchises yet.
Right. Yeah,
Because
I
like,
love the Black Cauldron too, Rob. It's one of the very underrated Disney movies nobody talks about. It's on
because you don't
Disney
really think,
Plus. Well, if y'all have Disney Plus.
yeah, yeah, because you really don't think of horror in Disney. I mean, Disney family friendly. Um,
Well, if you break down Snow White, it's actually a horror. If you break down Snow White, it's actually a horror.
yeah, yeah,
If
and
you
there,
fully break it down.
yeah, I try not to think of it too deeply. Like, yeah, because a lot of the Disney animation, some of it's kind of freaky.
Mhm.
If you really think about it, like for example, I know it's not animation, but Mary Poppins. Like,
Yeah.
even the concept of Mary Poppins, she's basically a genie, right? Like, she's
Mhm.
a cursed witch
Mhm.
who can't come or go as she pleases.
Okay.
She's stuck
No,
with
you're
the
fine. Are
little.
you okay? Sorry, my mother-in-law's right here.
Oh yeah, yeah, no
Dad,
worries.
she's all right. Yeah, I know what you mean.
But
Um,
yeah, I
I'll
was
check it
thinking.
out, Rob. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'll check it out, Rob. That's pretty cool. I'll check it out.
Nice.
What were you gonna say? Sorry. Didn't mean to
Oh well,
cut you off.
I was just saying, like, if you really think about like some of the classic Disney films, like if you think about
Mhm.
it too much, they're like, well, that's a little messed up. Like I love Mary
Mhm.
Poppins; it's an all-time classic, but the character of Mary Poppins is doesn't really come and go as she pleases.
Right.
She's basically a cursed witch or a
Mhm.
djinn, where she has to come and go with the wind changing directions
Yep.
and kids writing letters. So she's
Mhm.
stuck there. When you see her at the very beginning in that great, beautiful matte shot of her in the
Yeah.
clouds over London, she's stuck there. It's like she's the genie
Mhm.
in the bottle. So, um,
Yep.
actually having to think about it very closely, it's like that's a
Mhm.
little, it's like a slavery of a magical character.
Yep.
So it's
I love something wicked this way comes. Yeah.
oh
You saying
yeah,
you're a horror fan. And then have you seen Halloween Town? Have you seen that? It's
I
Disney.
have
It's
I have not seen Halloween, the Halloween
Halloween Town.
movies. Oh, Halloween Town? I
So
have not seen.
that has Debbie Reynolds in it.
Mm,
Carrie Fisher's mom's in it.
yeah.
It's a really cute Halloween movie, and they made this town called Halloween Town, and they're witches. But they go into the human world, because the mom of the kids This was a Disney Channel original film. This came out in the early 2000s, maybe 90s. I think it was early 2000s though.
Mm.
And so Debbie Reynolds is like the grandmother witch of these two kids, and they go to her house. They sneak off and go to her house, and it's in Halloween Town. It's really cool.
That's cool. I got to check that out.
That's what it's called. Wizard of Oz is technically a horror too, if you want to think about it.
Yeah, that is sort of an interesting one to think about. Yeah, because yeah, if you really think about it, she's stuck in her house, and then it's because
What, Wizard of Oz? Why?
I wouldn't watch it as a kid. I was scared.
Oh, my mother-in-law saying she was scared of Wizard of Oz as a kid.
I think I was a little bit too, like the Wicked Witch of the West for sure. Like not when they're actually on the golden when they're on the Yellow Brick Road, but like the actual Wicked Witch of the Witch when she pops up initially at the very beginning.
Yes. Yeah, so that's technically a horror film. A lot of people back then, it was a horror film, was considered a horror film, but now it's like maybe PG or PG-13 now. I don't even know. But yeah, the Flying Monkey scared me too, Carrie.
Yeah.
What's your favorite MCU movie? Do you have a favorite one?
Oh, that's a tough one. I guess right now I would say it's probably either Endgame or the first Guardians of the Galaxy film or the first Iron Man film.
Oh yeah, I love all those too.
Because because those are the best. Those are the ones that I love the most, but they're also the best the best directed, the best constructed, to where you don't really pick apart anything about it to where you go, well, I would change that, or I would change that, or like if you watch something like Iron Man 3, right? Like there's good parts to it, but the 3 ring or the 10 rings thing, and then it's that, so there's things that I would change in a lot of films, but yeah, those 3 especially, like there's really nothing that I would change about either Endgame, Iron Man 1, or the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Volume 1.
I love the first Guardians of the Galaxy. I think that was so much fun. That movie was so much fun. The only one that I did not like in the MCU was Internals. I was like, what the heck's going on?
Which one?
I watched that. Internals or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what the heck's going on?
Yeah, there's only 2 that I'm not huge fans of. Thor 4, Thor Love and Thunder was the first one that I didn't give a recommendation to go watch. That was the first one that I gave Thor 4. I gave it 2 stars, and that's probably not even as good as it. That's probably even generous. And then Captain Marvel.
I didn't like Captain Marvel either.
It was such a sloppy, like for being a period piece and for being a throwback 90s, like the 90s was when I was in high school. So I was really looking forward to all of that part of it, but it was just it was a little sloppy with its like, and then like, oh, well, that's how Sam Jackson, that's how Nick Fury loses his eye. It just kind of was like such a, like when everyone started talking about subverting expectations, and I was like, yeah, it's just a lazy excuse for bad filmmaking.
No. Yeah, I agree.
I don't think anyone was like, well, here's how Nick Fury is going to lose his eye, and no one's going to see it coming.
Right. I thought it was going to be like a cool way that he lost his eye, but it was like cat, and I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, and then like, well, and if anyone doesn't like it, we'll say that they're whatever. So yeah, I was a little disappointed.
Out of the Thor movies, my favorite's Thor Ragnarok. I love Thor Ragnarok.
Me too. Which is why Thor Love and Thunder was such a disappointment, because I thought, God, like everything about Thor Ragnarok should not have worked, in my opinion, and it did. And then you bring back the same director with the same basic style of filmmaking, and then Thor Love and Thunder was just ugh.
And then I also didn't like Internals, and I didn't like because they put Black Widow in the weird spot, and I didn't like it either.
Yeah, I wanted to like Black Widow more than I did, but I think when we look back at the fact that who was it? The guy that was in charge of Marvel Entertainment, so not Kevin Feige, but technically Kevin Feige's boss through phase
Mhm.
1 and 2.
Mhm.
He, you see all those email leaks, and he wasn't allowing he wasn't even
Mhm.
allowing like female action figures, much less a female led movie.
Mhm.
So the fact that we got Black Widow solo film after her character dies,
Mhm.
and set 5 years earlier is it's a bit sloppy.
Mhm.
That plus they're launching Disney Plus at the time, so what's the story really probably should have been a streaming show, but everyone
Right.
wanted a feature film, so we're kind of shoehorning the structure of a streaming show into a
Mhm.
feature film. Yeah, I think it was kind of a little bit all over the place, and then she's not a super powered figure, and yet like 2 or 3 of the
Mhm.
scenes she probably should have died.
Right. Mhm.
But
But I
because
just
of
thought it was
plot
a
armor.
weird placement, but I understand because of the
Yep.
pandemic and everything, but it was just a weird placement for Black Widow. They should have done it earlier. They should have done it in between like Endgame and something and one of those other movies that was like before Endgame. They should have done it in between there or something. It's just
Yeah,
weird.
and honestly too, I think with 2020 hindsight, with Kevin Feige being this master storyteller that he is, I think on especially now that they've had what 10 or 11 different streaming shows, I think
Mhm.
her story is perfect for a streaming show. And you could
Right.
do a movie, but having
Mhm.
her grounded and down to earth makes more sense than a floating city in the sky falling
Right.
for a
Mhm.
Black Widow movie, I think, because it's it's espionage and traitor and being a spy type stuff.
Yeah. I
Sort of like
agree with
the
you.
Nick Fury show, but yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
I didn't like that one as much.
I didn't either, especially the whole he's hiding thing. Like
Mhm.
there was really no explanation as to why he's hiding up on Saber. Like
Right.
there's I would have
Mhm.
thought if you're doing 6 episodes on the as Tony Stark even said, he's the spy. And you go back and
Mhm.
watch the Avengers movies, and when he shows up in the other Captain America movies, he's the badass. So
Right.
at least show why he's got his bell rung or why he's shook up, other than just the snap.
Right, yeah. The only show that I really liked was WandaVision. Out of all the shows, out of all
Yeah.
the Marvel shows, I really liked WandaVision because that was really cool how they incorporated like all the decades in there and then all the
Yep.
stuff. It was really cool. I really enjoyed that one.
Well, and I'm a huge fan of sitcoms in general. So I love that whole plot device of and even
Mhm.
how the just idea of they had DVDs growing up. That's such a cool concept. And then the
Mhm.
throwback to all of the Dick Van Dyke Show and then all those 60s, 70s, 80s sitcoms. I
Mhm.
still remember watching all those sitcoms growing up, Family Ties
Me too. I
and
used to watch it on Nick at Night. That's how
yeah.
I would watch the shows was my mom would tell us go to bed and we had a TV in our room and I would watch Nick at Night. That's how I
You
got
rem
to watch it. I Dream of Jeannie and Lassie and all those.
Oh yeah, I still love I Dream of Jeannie. Yeah.
Me too. It still holds up very well today. You wouldn't think it would, but it does.
It holds up better than Dallas does. And I love Dallas too, but like back
Mhm,
before back before Spike TV was Spike TV, it was TNN, so it was the Nashville network. And they would run Dallas, which ran for
mhm,
13 years and was like the number one show on TV from like the late 70s to the early 90s. They would show Dallas 3 times a day. So in an era before
mhm.
streaming, it was really easy uh, to watch the whole series run of Dallas over like a 2 or 3 year period. So
Okay, yeah, I never seen Dallas. I'll have to
it
check it out.
it's if you've ever heard of the phrase "Who shot Jr."
Mhm.
That's from Dallas, and
Oh, okay.
It's Larry Hagman from I Dream of Jeannie,
Mhm.
and it's Patrick Duffy from Step by Step
Okay.
as brothers, and they're brothers in this
Mhm.
oil tycoon family,
Oh, okay.
and it's just a great it's a great back and forth of the haves and the have-nots, and wealth and
Mm,
80s greed and all that kind of stuff. So it's uh it's great drama in terms of like 80s dramas.
mhm.
Like, you always hear about like what are the other ones? There's the one with the Carringtons where it's Dynasty and all those. All Dynasty and all
Mhm.
those 80s dramas were based off of
Right.
Dallas. Dallas
Mhm.
came along first. So
Dancing, he remembers the shirts.
yeah. Yeah. Who shot JR? And it
And
turned
then
out that it was
Echo saying Return to Wizard of Oz, it could technically be a horror movie too. Yeah, it can be.
oh, I still haven't seen that one, but I love Franco. James Franco.
Mhm. Yeah. And Carrie saying she likes the remake of Dynasty on Netflix.
Yeah, I remember when that was on. I remember when that was on the WB or the CW, and I
Hmm.
think I watched an episode or two, but because it didn't
Hmm.
have Joan Collins slapping people, I just didn't keep up with it.
Right. What do you think of the new Flash movie that came out? Did you like that one?
I liked it. I didn't love it. Like I don't like Ezra Miller. Sad to say,
Mhm.
they're
I don't like
really
him either.
yeah, really talented actor, but I didn't think that
That's
Ezra
the
Miller was a good fit at any point
hmm
for Barry Allen. I really think it should have been Grant Gustin, and maybe that's Grant Gustin is a TV actor. That's fine, but
hmm
I really thought that Grant Gustin was a better fit for the character of Barry Allen,
hmm
and I like what they tried to do with the Flash. I love the Flashpoint storyline, but
Right.
season 2 of the Flash TV show did it better.
Yeah, I agree. I like the TV show better than the movie because I used to
Yeah,
watch the TV show on the WB and then I stopped watching because I forgot when it would come on. So I
yeah.
stopped watching.
I think every episode is now on Netflix, I think,
It
because
is.
they still have the deal with Netflix for all of the shows that were before. I think Batgirl or Batwoman was like the first one they didn't.
Batgirl, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was before Batgirl or something.
Were you a huge Arrowverse fan?
I have not seen that, no. What's that?
Uh,
Arrow? Is that what you're
yeah.
talking about?
So the Arrowverse is the collective term for all of for all of the WB, um, all the WB DC Comics shows. So Arrow, The Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, uh,
Hmm.
Batwoman, Black Lightning, and I think there's one or two more.
Gotcha.
Which unfortunately is now off the air because the whole network got sold.
Right, yeah. I liked Arrow actually. Arrow was like one of the was a really cool like show. I only seen like the first like season to it. I never really finished it, but I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, the first 3 seasons of Arrow were really good, and then it kind of law of diminishing returns after a while. Um,
Hmm.
but
Yeah, I
yeah, and then
agree.
the first 2 seasons of Flash were probably the best.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I thought it was interesting though. Once they put the Flash inside Supergirl, he came and visited Supergirl. I was like, what? Why is he visiting Supergirl? It
Well,
was
that
it
yeah,
was kind of like what they did with the Marvel universe. They kind of put it together, but I was just like, it's so weird to put them in the same universe.
yeah. I mean, I like the idea of the shared universe, but with a television budget, it's such a hard thing to pull off logically as to why they're not constantly teaming up, and
Hmm.
especially when they're all those shows were shot up in Vancouver,
Hmm.
except Black Lightning. I think Black Lightning was shot in Tyler Perry Studios down in Atlanta. I think,
Hmm.
but all the other
And
ones, except Superman and Lois, were all shot up in Vancouver.
yeah,
Uh,
they were. They shoot a lot of stuff in Canada. It's interesting.
it's a lot cheaper.
Hmm. They wrote. the character off from Dallas. Then season 1 later, maybe his death was all a dream and his wife was having.
Yeah, JR. Well, JR was shot at the end of the
I'll be
cliffhanger
right
at the
back.
end of
Hold
season
on 1 second.
3, and then because it was such a popular, it was something that crossed over, and like even like I think President Reagan or whoever's president at the time was commenting on Who Shot JR, that they didn't reveal who the actual shooter was of JR until like the fifth or sixth episode of the following season. And it turned out to be JR's sister-in-law, like his wife's little sister. Um, but then, yeah, the whole dream season was season 8 when Patrick Duffy had left and then wanted to come back. So it was all a dream. And then Victoria Principal left at the end of the following season. So I think the show kind of took a major dip after that. But because by that point, all of the original characters' contracts had run out. So like Barbara Bell Geddes had left for a year because she was fighting breast cancer and thankfully survived. But she left, and Patty Duke played Miss Ellie for a season, and then one of the blonde girl, she had left because she was Gary's daughter, and she had left. And then yeah, I think just kind of slowly there's a bleeding off of main characters after like
Mhm.
season 6, 7, 8. So like even Ken Kercheval, I no Ken Kercheval, sorry, Cliff Barnes stuck around to the very end, but like
Mhm.
um, Steve Canale like left. Ray Krebs, the farmhand, left. So
Right. What's your favorite sci-fi movie? Do you have a favorite one?
oh, I'd say probably start the original Star Wars. You know,
Mhm.
you can't beat. You know, it's funny when you think that the whole even going to get to the Death Star and getting captured in the tractor beam, that's like 45
Mhm.
minutes in the movie, and the first half an hour, 45 minutes is just lore. And yet I can sit there and I can watch Alec Guinness explain the Force
Right.
in minutia detail over and over and over again. And yet because the writing is so good, and because Mark Hamill is perfectly cast as Luke, and Alec Guinness is the perfect, somehow not creepy old man watching teenage boys with his binoculars.
Right.
But somehow it all works. I mean, even everything about that film, even the sand people, like the whole thing
Mhm.
with the shaking of the sticks over their head
Yeah.
being just like the whoever was editing would just like, oh, we'll just shake it back and forth, and it was just
Mhm.
everything about that
Wow.
film was just set up so perfectly.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. I like that movie. I also really liked out of the newer movies was Rogue One, how they did Rogue One, how
yep.
they got the plans to the Death Star and destroyed it. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I love that film, and that's another one of those cases where like I'm not a huge fan of Kathleen Kennedy as the creative head. Like she's a great
Mhm.
producer, but I don't think she's a great head of the studio in terms of creative directions.
Right.
So the fact that Rogue One came out good is sort of the exception that proves the rule that she probably should
Right.
not be head of Lucasfilm, because
Right.
they
Right.
changed directors on there in the same way that they changed directors on Solo.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, Solo, I hated Solo.
I like Solo. Like I like the first act, the second act, and the fourth act. But there's no like for being a film about Han Solo, he's the least
Mhm.
interesting character in that film,
Right.
and it's not Alden Ehrenreich's fault. It's bad writing, and
Mhm.
it's just
I
sad
did still
because
like Danny Glover's character. I did like him as I did like his character
yeah.
as what's his name? I can't think of his name at the moment. But
Oh, Lando Calrissian
yeah.
is young
But
Lando.
but everybody else in that movie, it was just like, and I also liked the girl from Game of Thrones. She was pretty good.
Yep.
But everybody else, I'm just like, this is really bad.
I like the characters. I like a lot of the stuff that they did, but it's not the story that I had a problem with. It's the writing and the character
Mhm.
development. So I like the idea of most of the characters, although I did not like Jon Favreau's character, the weird
Mhm.
like I don't know the with the arms as feet kind of character guy. But
Mhm.
I liked Woody Harrelson. I liked oh shoot,
Mhm.
what's her name? The one from Mission Impossible 2 and
Mhm.
Westworld. I liked her as his girlfriend. Um, yeah,
Right.
Barbie. Yeah, Bobby came back
Mhm.
with the fake shower scene, the fake Irish Spring commercial.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I like most of the characters
Mhm.
in there, and yeah, I love Amelia. Amelia Clark is Amelia Clark. Amelia Clark is great in pretty much everything she does.
Yeah, I liked her in that movie with Sam Refine or however you say his name. Me Before You. That was a really cute one that she did.
Oh yeah, the one where she was wait some who was dying in that one? Someone was dying.
Sam was dying in that one.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. The guy from Hunger Games.
Yeah, he was dying in it. His real name's Sam Fine or something like that. I don't
Yeah.
know. But
Yeah, because
but
that's
that was a really good one. It's also a book as well.
okay. Yeah, that's the only thing I've ever seen him in is Me Before You and the Hunger Games. Hunger Games, I think 2, 3, and 4 he was in. I don't think he
He
was
was
in Scorpion.
also in something with Kristen Stewart, but I don't remember the name of it at the moment. But he was in
Okay.
something with Kristen Stewart. I think they were like in the water or something. They were like it was kind of like open water concept or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
I don't remember that one, but yeah, Kristen Stewart is more talented than I think people give her credit for because the Twilight films, I think they were massively successful financially, but they weren't exactly critical darling films. But
Right.
I think Kristen Stewart's gone on to do a lot of especially indie films, and I'm a huge indie film fan as well.
Me too.
Like she was actually in a pretty good I forget the name of it, but she was in a indie film where she was a guard at Guantanamo Bay.
Oh yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I haven't seen it,
Yeah.
but I heard
And
about it.
it was this really low budget and it clearly like they didn't even have good cinematography in it. But it as an example of, questioning your own ethics and morals and all of that
Hmm.
kind of stuff. It was a really good exploration of that kind of a thing of her
Right.
character kind of being the point of view character. So
Yeah, she does a lot of indie films, which is really cool. I actually find them better than the blockbusters sometimes.
yeah, because the other stuff that she does that's blockbustery hasn't been great. Like,
Mhm.
what was it? The Charlie's Angels was not. It
Mm-mm.
just wasn't
I didn't
very
like that one
good.
much.
Because honestly,
Mhm.
I love oh shoot the director of Cocaine Bear, who does Press Your Luck as the host, Elizabeth
Mhm.
Banks. Like I love
Yeah,
Elizabeth
Elizabeth
Banks,
Banks.
but her as Charlie, it just like that. She was the best. She's usually the best part of whatever she's in.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I just wasn't feeling that whole film.
Right. I
Um,
really loved Elizabeth Banks' character in Pitch Perfect.
yeah, yeah, and I'm not a huge John Michael Higgins fan, but yeah, her with him kind of making fun of the whole thing was it's such a great comic relief
Mhm.
character.
And I really liked her in Role Models. She was really good in Role Models. I don't know
Yep.
if you seen that one.
Yep. Oh god, I love that one. The whole energy
Mhm.
drink thing with and oh god, who was it?
It's called
Well,
Underwater. That's what I was talking about.
oh, okay. Yeah, I definitely have not seen that one. But oh, Kristen Stewart, I can't remember the name of it, but there was a and I'm kind of blanking on who the author is, but oh, Jack that's it, Jack Kerouac. There
Mhm.
was a movie she did where it's a road trip film, and she's like the girl in a love triangle with two other guys, and
Okay.
it's this really famous book that Jack Kerouac did back in the '60s, and it's sort of like the hippie generation kind of growing up
Oh yeah, I
as
know what you're talking about, but I haven't seen it, but I read the book, but I forget what the name of it is. I
yeah,
read so
and
much
it's
stuff, I don't know.
the film kind of feels like they were trying too hard to capture the Kerouac
Mhm.
voice a little bit, but the film itself is pretty good.
Right.
And she's pretty good in that one.
So,
I think she was dating the director.
what has been your favorite film so far that you've seen this year?
Oh gosh, this year. Uh, Part 4. John Wick Part 4. I still haven't seen John Wick 2 or 3. John Wick 1 was good, but John Wick Part 4 was really good. I think I gave John Wick Part 4 was the first 5-star review that I've given out on my channel.
That's awesome. Yeah, I haven't seen John Wick 4, but I like all the other ones. I'm a huge Keanu Reeves fan anyway, so
Yeah.
I'll watch anything he does.
And it's weird because I like Keanu Reeves, I think, more than I love him.
Hmm.
Because he's not, his acting skills are not Al Pacino. He's not Robert De Niro. He's not.
Right.
He plays himself in most films, but his ability to be the best part or the best version of himself in a film
Hmm.
really jumps out in the John Wick movies
Right.
and Matrix as well.
Yeah, the last Matrix movie, I was disappointed in that one. I didn't like.
I like the idea of it. I really hated what they did with Morpheus, though. Like,
Hmm.
I'm a huge Glee fan, but I don't like Jonathan, the guy who was the love option for
Jonathan
Rachel in
Groff.
season. Yeah, like I like him as an actor, but I don't like his character in Glee, and I
Mhm.
hated him as Morpheus because there's nothing consistent about that character. Because like his take on Morpheus sort of felt like if I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but like for me, like I'm not an actor, but if I
Uh-huh.
was sitting there at an audition for Morpheus, that's sort of what
Uh-huh.
my version of Morpheus would be. You're sort of
Right.
doing a really
Yeah,
bad a really bad
I thought
version
that was
of.
a weird placing for Jonathan Groff. That it was a weird placing for him.
Yeah, and it because well, and just the directing was not great in the first place. And yeah, I get it, it's meta, and they're gonna make a film regardless, and yada yada yada, all that kind of stuff. But like, it kind of felt like they were trying to make it kind of felt like a bunch of people who were professional filmmakers were trying to make a Matrix movie more than an actual Matrix movie. So
Right.
I love that they got Carrie Ann Moss to come back, and it's kind of cool seeing Keanu Reeves 15 years later in the same part. But
Hmm.
it just it wasn't awful because I went into that film thinking, okay, this is either going to be great or it's going to be awful. It's not going to be somewhere in the middle, and it
Hmm.
was somewhere in
And
the
then they
middle.
had, and then they had fake Morpheus. I was like, nope, I don't like this movie already.
Yeah, and then the whole writers room thing where it was so meta that they were talking about like that whole thing. It's it wasn't
Hmm.
awful, which is I think worse than
Hmm.
I kind of wish it was worse than what it was because it wasn't good enough to be good.
Right.
But yeah, I just wish it was good or better than what it was or worse than what it was. The fact
Me
that it was
too.
somewhere in the middle.
I do like The Matrix though. I do like that.
Yeah.
And then I also like Keanu Reeves in Point Blank. That was a good one.
Oh, yeah, Point Break was great. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
R.I.P. Patrick Swayze. Patrick
Yes.
Swayze was always like the good but not great actor, but he's always good in what he did. I mean, Dirty Dancing is
Mhm.
such a classic.
Yes, it is. I also liked him when him and Wesley Snipes played as drag queens. That was fun.
Oh, yeah. I have to admit, I love Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. It is one of my all-time favorite indie movies, and I actually
Mhm.
saw it in theaters. The American adaptation was To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. I hated that film. And most of it is just because it's just such a piss poor recreation
Mhm.
of an Oscar winning film. Because uh, have you seen Priscilla, Queen of the Desert?
No, I've only seen the one with Patrick Swayze and Leslie Snipes.
So picture General Zod from the Christopher Reeve Superman movies,
Mhm.
Agent Smith from The Matrix, and Guy Pearce as
Mhm.
drag queens driving out on a bus to the middle of the Australian outback. So it's the same
Right.
basic story as To Wong Fu. Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar. But you have the cool Australian accents, and it's just the cinematography. It won best cinematography the Oscar as an indie
Mhm.
film with no budget, and it's drag queens singing ABBA, and
Mhm.
it's everything about independent cinema that is awesome, and some of the best movie villains of my lifetime in drag.
Mhm.
Uh, for some reason, though, just there was something, in my opinion, off about Tu Wong Fu. Thanks for everything,
Right.
Julie Newmar. Even though it's the same basic story, it just
Mhm.
it missed it for in a really bad way for me. And it's been a
Right.
long time since I watched it, so those are 30-year-old or 20-year-old memories of the
Yeah,
movie.
I just thought it was fun just because I watched that when I was like 10.
Yeah. Well, if you liked Tu Wong Fu, definitely watch Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, because that one I rewatched it a year or two ago. I finally got it on Blu-ray, and it still holds up.
Mhm. Okay, yeah, I'll have to watch it. Do you collect physical media?
I do. I have. It's hard to see because just with the setup of my apartment, I have 7 different stacks, like the stack behind
Mhm.
me. The one behind me is kind of more for show, but it's they hold each one of those has 3 across and 7 high, and each of the cells basically
Mhm.
holds about 10 Blu-rays, and I have 7 of
Mhm.
those.
Oh, wow.
Just from collecting, I've been collecting Blu-rays for 12 years now. And
Mhm.
my old roommate taught me the ability to buy a bunch of brand new Blu-rays for very cheap from the theater or from stores. And his rule was never pay more than $10 for a Blu-ray because they always go on sale, with the exception of Disney. They always go on sale at least once every 3 months. So as
Mhm,
long as
they
you're
do.
building a collection, you don't
Mhm.
have to pay 25 or $30 for a Blu-ray. That's ridiculous. So just wait
Mhm.
for 2-3 months and do obviously Black Friday sales are really big there too. But just going into Best Buy, once every 2 or 3 months, you can usually get really good deals for under $10 and even under $5 in a lot of cases.
Mhm. Uh, and Don saying, because Don also has a huge physical media collection. He's saying, great advice for buying physical media.
Yeah, I would guess that I have. I haven't done it. I need to do a Blu-ray collection, and that's the funny thing is I've been on YouTube for 3 years and I've never done a single one of them. But I definitely need to do one of those. But yeah, just looking over at my stacks, I probably
Right.
have somewhere near 2,000. I would guess between 1,500 and 2,000 that I've watched every single one. Um,
That's good though. You know. Um, so do you have a favorite like Halloween movie you watch every Halloween, or are you not
ooh,
really big
that's
into Halloween?
I like Halloween. I don't. It's funny. Ironically, living in Las Vegas, Halloween is a major going out night. So I don't really watch a ton of movies on Halloween. But like, I'm single and I've always been single. And so being in Vegas on Halloween is a great, it's a great holiday. It's a great holiday to be single in Las Vegas. And I used to go at every Halloween to the Hard Rock, which is now shut and being remodeled and everything. But the Hard Rock,
Mhm.
um, which is where they shot. If you've ever seen the movie Tomcats, that was
Yeah, I
shot
have.
at the Hard Rock Casino.
Mhm.
Going there every Halloween night was a great, a great
Mhm.
Vegas experience without spending a ton of money, other than the costume.
Right. And then Dancing Roadhouse $40 4K was $30 after like a month.
Ooh, yeah. 4K movies. I only have a standard or a high def TV. I have not upgraded to 4K because 4K Blu-rays or 4K
Mhm.
UHD, um, the players are still really expensive and the discs are still really expensive. The TVs are very affordable, So I've been slowly buying some of those 4K like on Black Friday kind of sales, but I can't remember what
Mhm.
I just brain farted and lost the point that I was trying to make. But
It's okay.
yeah,
We
4K
all
is
do
just
that.
oh yeah, 4K media is really expensive still. And I haven't looked the
Mhm.
last 6 months because honestly, I've been spending so much more time streaming the last 6 months. Because I
Mhm.
signed up for Disney Plus 2 months ago, and so I've been binge watching through all of Disney Plus's streaming content, and then I've had Max
Mhm.
slash HBO Max for the last year. So
Mhm.
I've been going through a lot of streaming stuff. And then honestly too,
Right.
the last 2 3 months since I started my podcast, I've only been watching like one movie a week in theaters, which is down. Traditionally, I do about 2 movies a week. So
Mhm.
my like I still haven't seen Oppenheimer, for example, which
I
is
haven't seen that
shocking.
either. I
Oh,
want to
you haven't
see
seen
it.
it either?
It's really good. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
and it's there's all kinds of talk about Oscars and stuff, and the fact that I haven't seen Oppenheimer is, and the fact that I missed Barbenheimer as an event when
Mhm.
I was talking about it on my channel. I saw Barbie in theaters, but I have not seen.
What did you think
Op-
of Barbie?
I was really disappointed, mostly in the marketing because the type of movie that Barbie is not what was marketed. So
Mhm.
I was expecting a fun 4 quadrant summer blockbuster. I was
Right.
not expecting a women's studies course. And that's fine that they would make a film for the women's studies college major, like it felt very
Mhm.
targeted towards a very specific audience, which is fine, but that's
Mhm.
not what was the value proposition given out in the trailers. So
Gotcha.
I was a bit disappointed in that because the first 15 minutes of the film are great when they're in Barbie Land.
Mhm.
And I love Greta Gerwig because I love Lady Bird and I loved Women Talking as, Oscar nominated films. But the whole part of half an hour in until an hour and a half in, because it's a 2 hour
Right.
movie, which is, in my opinion, too long for a Barbie summer blockbuster.
Right.
But an hour I thought was way too long for that.
Mhm.
Um, that and the
I
whole
want
thing
to.
with oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I still want to see it. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, well, I don't want to like drop any spoilers, but there's a plot point with Ryan Gosling's Ken character that just doesn't
Mhm.
make much sense to me. And that was kind of like the
Okay.
other like I know it's a Barbie movie, but that part doesn't make sense for his character. Anyway,
Right. It's all
but
good.
love the cast
Well,
though.
Ryan Gosling has a weird repertoire of movies that he does anyway.
He does. He's always well. And then I was actually just went back and I watched Blue Valentine or Blue
Oh,
Valentine.
I love that movie.
Yeah, and it's
It's an independent film with him and Heath
Michelle Ro-
Ledger's ex-wife.
yeah, Michelle Williams.
Yeah.
And the two of them have such a the funny thing is too, I remember seeing the trailer for it in theaters, and then I didn't see and then because it was an indie film, I saw the trailer in just a regular movie theater, not an indie theater. And so I remember thinking that looks really good because the trailer was just when he was playing
Mhm.
the ukulele while she's dancing. And then I just as you do, you see a trailer before a movie and you kind of forget about it. And then I was just flipping through Max a month or so
Mhm.
ago, and I was like, and then I just kind of flipped past it. I was like, oh yeah, I remember seeing the trailer for that, and it's been 10 years and I hadn't seen it yet, so I watched it. And I was like, that was really friggin' good. That was
It
really
was. I
good.
like the dark tones in that movie. That movie has like a lot of blue and like black and like dark
Yep.
tones. And I was like, that's really interesting. It kind of reminded me of Sweeting Todd with Johnny
Mm.
Depp, but the colors in the movie. And I was like, this is really interesting. I think I saw it on at the time it was on Tubi, so I watched it. It was really good. And they play well off of each other.
Yeah, and it's it's interesting to see how much stress causes apparently male pattern baldness with raising
Hmm.
kids with him
Yeah.
too.
But he was so mean to her, and I was just like, whoa. I've never seen Ryan Gosling get that way. You know.
Well, and that was the interesting thing because I didn't really see him as mean. I saw him as good intentioned, and part of it was probably just seeing the flashback scenes when he was more of the, I hate saying innocent, but like the guy that was trying to do the right thing,
Right.
and he just didn't know how to let go when that probably was the better thing to do, was to let her go.
Right, exactly.
Um,
But it was a good movie. Y'all should check that out.
yeah.
I think it's still on Max. If y'all haven't, if you guys like indie films like that. I
Yeah.
also liked him in even though that he's only in a couple scenes in this movie, Behind the Pines or whatever, that was a really good Ryan Gosling movie too.
Oh, I still haven't seen that one, but that's a great, or that's a that has a great cast. It's a murder mystery, like they're trying to find who killed, I think, one of their kids. I think like small town kind of thing.
That was a really good Ryan Gosling movie. But some of his movies he's done is weird. But my guilty pleasure of his is Stupid Crazy Love with Emma Stone, and it has Steve Carell and Julie Ann Moore's in it. That's
Yep.
my like guilty pleasure movie of him because he's acting just like himself, kind of in real life. In that movie,
Yeah.
and he's so mean to Steve Carell. It's so funny. He's so mean to Steve Carell in that movie.
Yeah, there's the whole David Lindhagen thing.
Mhm.
It's not
Yeah,
Lindhagen, it's Lindhagen. Like, yeah, but he's the guy that's trying to sleep with his wife. Like,
yeah.
that's such a, it's one of those films that I really wish, in some ways, I wish that they would have done sequels to, but I'm glad that they
Hmm.
didn't, because that script was just perfectly acted and perfectly cast. And
I agree with you.
Steve Carell just being him as Cal is so the
Hmm.
not Michael from The Office. It's sort of the
Right.
anti Michael from The Office. And
Hmm.
yet he does such a great job emoting that character that just doesn't know. I mean, how many times do we see guys or girls, women, men or women, re-entering the
Hmm.
dating market, middle age, and they don't know how to date anymore. And
Right.
he has that character down without it
Mhm.
being a repeat of 40-Year-Old Virgin, even though the storyline
Right.
is very similar.
Mhm. And I thought that was funny, the mall scene when he goes, "What kind of wallet do you have?" And it's a Velcro wallet, and he just smacks him with the Velcro wallet.
Yeah. And he was like, when he was commenting at his shoes, like, "Are you an internet billionaire?" Like,
Mhm.
"Well, no, I'm not an internet billionaire." "Then stop wearing those shoes."
Right? Hey, Denisha, welcome. Yeah,
Hi.
I thought that was funny. And then him like because his friend's daughter thought he had a crush on her or hitting on her and stuff, and then they get into a fight, and I thought that was pretty funny too. And then
Oh,
they
yeah,
all get
yeah.
into a fight,
Yeah, that was, I'm
and
trying to
then
remember
Kevin
the,
Bacon gets into a fight too.
yeah. Yeah, the casting in that film was near perfect. Uh, yeah, and then, who was it? It was, I think it's Tipton, Annalie Tipton. She's since, come out as trans, so she's changed
Yeah,
her name, but the last name is still Tipton.
yeah.
She's either had a gender reassignment surgery or she's changed pronouns. So I don't want to like
Mhm.
mess it up, but he sh- uh, that actor was in a movie that came out this past summer called Vengeance,
I
and
heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
yeah, it's really good. It's done by B.J. Novak, who was Ryan from The Office,
Mhm.
and it
Hey, Larry.
plays a lot with red state, blue state type stuff, but it goes beyond the surface level.
Mhm.
And here we have Ryan Howard from The Office playing Ryan Howard from The Office, a very New York
Mhm.
centric intellectual kind of character, going to Dallas, or going to small town Texas, to bury Annalie Tepton's character,
Mhm.
because they anyway it's such a great character study. And
Mhm.
she they he I can't remember the right pronoun, but Annalie Tipton was the character that dies in the film, that
Right.
before it starts, and he's meeting her family. So
Nice. Yeah, I haven't seen it, but it looks really good and sounds really good.
yeah, it's one of those two where the trailer isn't exactly like the film actually presents, but it's equally good. And it definitely has that feel of a BJ Novak script, and I believe it was his directorial debut.
Okay,
So
yeah. I'll have to check that out. I'll have to find it. Did you like the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special last year where they're trying to get Kevin Bacon? That was funny.
I did. I love that they've talked about Kevin Bacon so much, and that it makes sense too, because the way they have that character aged, I believe they have him being kidnapped after the death of his mom in 1989 as a 9-year-old kid. So basically,
Yeah.
his character's basically the same age as Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory.
Mm-hmm.
Because young Sheldon, he's 9 in 1989. So
Right.
that's the way I think of it. But yeah, I love Kevin Bacon, and sort of his perpetually stuck in the 80s sort of thing. Like, as would happen with a character like that. Although I have to admit the setup for Guardians 3 I thought was a little bit sloppy, because for a guy who constantly talks about being raised on Earth, who then goes to Earth for Endgame, it didn't
Mhm.
make a whole lot of sense to me that they were just like, well, we got everyone back, so we're going to get on the ship and take off. Like,
Right.
I don't know how fuel works in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but
They just have unlimited supply of fuel,
yeah, and they
apparently.
they fly to constant different cities or different planets and stuff.
Mhm.
So if you constantly talk about being on Earth, and you find yourself on Earth during Endgame, wouldn't you spend at
Mhm.
least a couple of weeks there? So that part of the setup for Guardians 3, I felt it was a little bit sloppy.
Right.
Um, and then just the idea of him being somehow after the Christmas special, he somehow then becomes an alcoholic, who then
Mhm.
is a hardcore alcoholic in the beginning of the film, and then immediately is sober for the rest of the film. I thought that transition, I thought, was a bit. I mean,
Mhm.
we know what the story was and what they were trying to do, but I thought that part of Quill's storyline was a bit.
Welcome in, Larry. I hope you're doing well.
Hey,
The
Larry,
horror cat dad.
that's a good name.
Yeah.
That's a good name for a channel.
I thought that was like kind of weird too. But I did like the story though. I did like hearing Rocket's backstory because that was really interesting.
Yeah, the only thing with Rocket's story, and I liked the story, but like, like a Venn diagram,
Hmm.
uh, where you're taking two different things and you find whatever they cross over. I kept thinking like like the other experimented on animals. I was like, well, they clearly
Hmm.
James Gunn just took a Venn diagram and said this circle is all of the cute animals in the world, and this
Hmm.
circle is the cruel punishment that someone could do experimenting on those animals. And
Right.
the four characters that we see uh, are the four most cruel things that you could do the cutest animals.
Hmm.
So I thought that part of it was a little bit too thought experimenty, or just
Hmm.
just it was too much of a Venn diagram for me. But
Larry, if you have Disney Plus, it is on Disney Plus now.
yeah,
If you have it.
it's there, and good film too. And that's just me nitpicking a bit. Good, but
Yeah,
yeah,
but
good
as
film.
film critics and movie reviewers, we do nitpick movies a little bit sometimes.
It's half the fun.
Just like I tomorrow, because I do Disney Monday. So tomorrow my live action take of Little Mermaid will be coming out tomorrow.
Oh, nice. Okay. Did
Mhm.
you see it in theaters, or did you just watch it?
No, I didn't see it in theaters. I waited for it to come on Disney Plus because at the time my fiance wanted to either I told him I want to go see the Little Mermaid movie or did he want to go see Guardians and he picked Guardians, so
Hmm,
didn't get to see it in theater. But I did get a chance to see the Guardians in theater, so
nice. Yeah, I actually just because I didn't see as many movies in theaters in the theater this summer. The Little Mermaid ended up being my highest rated film of the summer.
I just didn't like the CGI. The singing, everything else was good. I just didn't like the CGI as much.
Yeah, just like the design of the fish. I liked
Flounder was a little weird.
yeah, Flounder looked not good, but the worst one was the crab. Sebastian. Sebastian's crab design was just, I don't know, it was
Mhm.
off-putting.
And it was kind of weird having the guy that plays in Hamilton play the character that played John Thomas Jefferson in Hamilton was Sebastian, and he had a weird Jamaican accent. I was like, what?
Yeah, it's a yeah. I agree. I
Mhm.
I really like Lin-Manuel Miranda. I think he might be a little bit overexposed right now.
Yeah. Also, he actually wrote some of the songs for the movie, like some of the original songs, because every Disney live action movie there is an original song, and he wrote a couple of the original songs.
Yeah, and the other thing was I still have not seen the original Little Mermaid.
Oh, you should
Um,
watch that.
yeah, I've heard it's really good, but of the Disney Renaissance animated
Mhm.
films, that's the only one that I still to this day have not seen. Like I even saw The Great Mouse Detective in theaters.
Oh, I love
Um,
Great Mouse Detective.
yeah, and ironically, it has that really cool CGI clock scene with Big Ben and um, but I've basically heard the story before, and I've seen all the
Mhm.
you go on YouTube and you see most of the singing songs, most of the musical numbers.
Mhm.
Um, that was the only thing I didn't like about the Little Mermaid was the fact that it was, from my understanding, the same basic story as the Little Mermaid animated
Mhm.
film, but it's 53 minutes longer. So for being a film that's aimed at kids and
Mhm.
families, to tell the
Yep.
same story over 2 hours and 13 minutes, I think it was, versus an
Mhm.
hour and 25 minutes for the original film, I thought was just way, way too long. Even having 3 additional musical numbers, I just thought it
Yeah.
was, uh but yeah, I liked it
Larry's
though.
Larry's saying he didn't like Guardians 2 as much. I didn't either because they killed off my favorite character.
The thing about, and I like Guardians too. The thing about it though is, have you ever seen Rocky? Like Rocky 1?
Yeah. Mhm.
The thing is so Paulie,
Mhm.
Rocky 1 is a story of 3 lost souls. It's Rocky,
Right.
Adrian, and Paulie. And Paulie is the guy who is the common glue that brings everyone together.
Mhm.
And I believe that he actually, the actor who played him, I'm brain farting on his name, but the guy who played Paulie, I believe won a Best Supporting Actor Academy Award. I could be wrong, but I believe that was
Mhm.
the case. By the time you get to Rocky 2,
Mhm.
the entire rest of the Rocky series, Paulie is nothing but an alcoholic punchline. And
Right.
all of the Oscar winning subtle acting of the first
Mhm.
film is gone, and he's a punchline. The same thing basically happens to Dave Bautista in Guardians 2, because you look at Guardians
Mhm.
1, he's, I don't want to say he's the glue that keeps it all together, but he has this, really emotional storyline of how he lost his wife and his daughter,
Mhm.
and it's a lot more subtle of a character. And not that Dave Bautista is a particularly hugely talented actor. He's likable and he's a great
Mhm.
action star. But then when you see him just telling perverted jokes in
Mhm.
Guardians 2, and I get it, okay, he's a literal character, that's how he speaks, is literally, but it just,
Right.
it felt so emotionally disingenuous for his character. And
Mhm.
I still love Guardians of the Galaxy 2, but that's when you say, well, okay, what's the difference between Guardians 1 and Guardians 2? It's like, well, Drax. Drax, and
Mhm.
he's not the only one, but the character of Drax is nothing but telling Ryan Reynolds style jokes that just don't land.
Yeah. I agree with you. The only other movie I've seen Dave Bautista in is a Amazon original movie called My Spy, and he's in that one. He did a pretty good job in that one.
I actually saw that in theaters, and the little girl from that film has gone on to star in a couple of other films. I can't remember exactly which, but yeah, she stole the
Mhm.
show in that one, and he did a great job too. Um, right before the pandemic hit, if I remember right, too. That was like one of the last ones I saw as the
Mhm.
pandemic was hitting. But yeah, I like that film too.
Yeah, it was kind of cool not to see him in red paint.
Yeah. And then did you see his I forget who was it? It was I think it was M. Night Shyamalan. He did a horror film with M. Night Shyamalan this past spring.
I didn't see it. Mm-mm.
I can't
I
remember what
tend to stay away from M. Night Shyamalan's movies because I
hmm.
don't really care for them. The only ones that I really liked was like The Sixth Sense, and I actually don't like Mel Gibson, but I actually like Signs,
Hmm.
and I did like The Village, but some of his movies are like hit or miss. And I did like Lady in the Water with Paul Giamatti, but his movies I try to stay away from because some of them are sucky. Like Mark Wahlberg in The Happening. What? The wind kills you? What? That's
If
what
you
did it for me for M. Night Shyamalan movies.
yeah, if you really dislike The Happening, or not, if you really dislike that one, watch the pitch meeting for it.
Hmm.
It's brilliant. It just rips it apart.
Right?
I do like of the M. Night Shyamalan films though. I did like Split, and I
Yeah, I
kind of
like
like
Split. I like that one. I thought I thought I thought what's his name did a really good job in that movie. James McAvoy
Yeah,
playing all those personalities and
and
having
it
a
was
dissociative personality disorder.
and it was
That was
interesting
really
too
cool.
because his therapist was the mom from Eight Is Enough.
Oh, okay. I did
So if
not know
you've
that.
yeah, so if you've ever seen Eight Is Enough, that was the '80s TV show where it's a guy who's a news reporter for a newspaper in Sacramento, and he has 8 children, and it
Hmm.
was supposed to be just a regular family drama, but the woman they cast as the wife
Hmm.
developed breast cancer in real life, and she died after like they she gave them the choice of recasting her because she knew she was sadly going to pass away very quickly, and they decided
Right.
not to recast her. So she died after like episode 7 or 8 of the first season.
Hmm.
So Dick Van Patten, who was the dad in Spaceballs,
Hmm. I love
is the dad.
Spaceballs. That's a good movie.
He's the dad on the series Eight Is Enough, and
Mhm.
great cast, including Mark Hamill, pre Star Wars, as one of the 8 kids. And
Mhm.
when the character gets remarried in season 2 or 3, Betty Buckley, who was the therapist in
Mhm.
Split, was the second wife, the stepmom.
Echo. I heard he's doing the live action Moana.
Oh, nice. That'd be cool.
I actually liked him in Mary Poppins Returns with
Mm.
Emily Blunt. He actually did a pretty good job in that one.
God, that was like the impossible movie that was never going to be as good as the original. I mean, it's still good, but like it's
Mhm.
just it. I love Emily Blunt and I love Lin Manuel Miranda, and
Mhm.
yeah, just not quite. Not
Mhm.
well. I mean, no, not quite. Nowhere near as good as the original because the original's an awful lot classic, but
Mhm.
it's
And
still a
dancing.
fun movie.
Bautista gives me performance in Bushwick, humbled through the army of dead.
Huh? I've not heard. I've never even heard of Bushwick. I liked Army of the Dead. It wasn't good. I mean, it wasn't great. It was just sort of okay, but I've not heard of
Mhm.
Bushwick though.
I haven't either. I'll have to check it out. Mr. Dan of Horror, he actually um his channel is really really good. He actually does movies that I've never heard of, and I'll go back and watch them because he reviews movies that I've never heard of sometimes.
Nice. And that's the great thing about these our movie review channels is there are so many films out there. I mean, like
Hmm.
even if you were to watch a film a day, like there's literally not enough time in one's life to watch every movie. So
Right.
yeah, I love when people are covering stuff that I'm not, and I'm like films I'm not even aware of, like Bushwick.
You saying Bushwick is a good action sleeper movie?
Nice. Okay, I'll have to check out the trailer for that.
Me too. I have not seen it, but sometimes I like to go into movies blind and not even watch the trailer.
Okay. Yeah, I have a hard time doing that. Although, um, I write movie reviews. I haven't been writing many since this summer, but I write movie reviews for ReviewNation.net. There's a guy here in Vegas. His name is Derek Sante,
Hmm.
um, and he gets me into screenings, and I write the movie reviews up for Review Nation. So that's I've also learned how to do WordPress by writing reviews for him. So one of the great things with that setup is um, not every film festival, but I've been able to watch film like 3, 4 films for like Sundance or
Hmm.
uh, different like TIFF, especially during the COVID.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, some of those like when those films go to film festivals, they generally don't have trailers out yet. So you're
Right.
really just getting a description and maybe like not even a movie poster, but like a single still.
Hmm.
So I love trailers, and I don't generally go to watch a movie unless I see the trailer. But for all those indie
Right.
movies, you're kind of just you. There's not even a trailer out yet, so those are
Yeah,
ones that I
that's
like
kind of
watching.
like my friend Jake. I'll have to connect you with him. His
Nice,
movie's on Tubi, and it's called Clay Zombies. And
nice.
he actually started following me on Instagram, and I was like, okay, who is this person? So I looked it up, and I was like, oh, this movie looks really cool. So I decided to do it, and I never seen the trailer. I didn't go to his personal channel and see the trailer or anything like that. And then I watched the movie, and it was actually really good. And so then I asked him, "Hey, do you want to come on for an interview?" And we were on Patrick Have Cheeto Views channel. You know who Patrick is.
Yep.
And we were on his channel. So I was the first person that discovered Jake. And then we both interviewed him on his channel. And then like a few weeks ago, Jake came on my channel and we were talking about it. And it's kind of cool though that he's a great friend of the channel and he's a great friend. And I tell people go check out Clay Zombies because it's really cool of a
Nice.
movie.
That's awesome. Yeah, I need to try and I th- I love interviewing all of our creators, but I need to start trying to reach out to actors and directors and start trying to bring
Mhm.
some of them on, like
I'll
especially
send you
indie
some of the ones
movies.
that I have. I'll send you some of the ones I have.
Oh, nice. Yeah, absolutely. Because that's something I want to do too. Is talk more with get more practice and talk with indie films because I love indie films. So anything I can do as a channel to try and prop up indie films and
The
get more
recent
talk.
old Mortal Kombat movies using Dave Bautista, it's hard to tell who he is and they made yeah.
Was he Goro in the Mortal Kombat original movies, or I didn't think he was that old.
Dave Bautista?
Yeah, I mean, like I know he's in his early 50s, but I didn't think that he was because he was wrestling for a lot of those years, so I didn't know that he was doing like stunt work or body work
Right.
for Mortal Kombat because that was like mid 90s. I thought that Dave Bautista's first movie was like 2000 or so. I could be wrong on the dates there, but like the first Mortal Kombat movie, the one that had Christopher Lambert, was like
Right.
95, 96, something like that.
Gotcha. Yeah. I yeah, I have not I didn't know he was in like his 50s. I know he was a wrestler, but that was about it, you know.
Yeah, like I'm so I'm old enough that when I was a wrestling fan, which was not very long, it was, when I was like 3rd, 4th grade, that was like if uh if you watch ESPN and they do like those ESPN 30 for
Mhm.
30 documentaries, if they, when they talk about WrestleMania 3, which is like
Mhm.
when they first brought all of the WrestleMania, the
Right.
WWF, all these regional ones together as the WWF. Um, that was like that was the WW or the that was like the one that I watched, like a WrestleMania 3.
Right.
Which was like I think they sold like 90,000 seats for the Silverdome in Detroit.
Mhm.
So that 1 or 2 or 3 year period was like that was the only time that I really have ever been a regular wrestling fan. So when Dave Batista comes along as a wrestler in the 2000s, I'm aware of The Rock and I'm aware of
Mhm.
the WWE now, but like I don't really watch it on any regular basis. So yeah, knowing exactly when he came on the scene and what his characters were like, I honestly couldn't tell you.
Right. Yeah, The Rock, it's so funny to see The Rock bald now. When he first started, he had hair. So funny.
Yeah, it's oh man, baldness.
Mhm.
I try not to speak on it because I'm fortunate to have all my hair still, but I don't want to be the guy that makes fun of the baldness and then I go bald 5 years from now. So,
You're
uh,
good. No,
yeah,
but I'm just saying, I think it's funny.
yeah, it is. It's a weird. It is a weird thing. And then like, I call it the Christopher Maloney rule. Like Christopher Maloney
Mhm.
from Law and Order SUV. At what
Mhm.
point is it balding? Like, is Christopher Maloney's hairline has been the same for the last 20 years,
Mhm.
but he has a really high forehead. So when is
Right.
it balding versus he just has a high forehead?
Right.
Because he's not balding, like it's not moving backwards. It's just a really high hairline.
Right. Yeah, my brother is losing his hair, and he's only 35 and he's losing all his hair.
Oh,
I think
geez.
it's from years of playing like football and baseball and stuff like that and wearing the helmet.
Well, it's stress too. Like I have one of my closest friends. It's weird. I remember seeing him right when he turned 30, and he
Mhm.
hadn't lost like not even like a little bit of his frontal hairline had changed. And then a
Right.
couple years later, he was married and had 4 kids, and all of a sudden he just lost a lot of his hair. Um,
Right.
so yeah, so I think it's probably stress related, probably at least in some
Probably.
cases.
Echo saying they added a new game to the car chasing Mortal Kombat, and he was like a little skinny and darker, but it's him.
Huh? Interesting.
I didn't know that.
That description almost sounds more like he was added to the movie Cars. Like,
Right?
like somehow it sounds like Lightning McQueen somehow got a steroid injection and looked like Dave Bautista somehow. I don't know.
Right? Yeah. I actually like Cars. A lot of people don't like it, but I actually do.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I don't love it. I mean, as far as like Pixar movies go, I think most of the other Pixar movies I love more. Like, who doesn't
Which
love
one do
Toy
you like?
Story? And the original Toy Story, Toy Story 3, Up, and The Incredibles were probably my favorite.
Oh yeah, those I like those ones. My
I mean,
favorite Pixar is Toy Story and Finding Nemo.
yeah, Finding Nemo's the other great one. Yeah, and
Finding
I liked Finding Dory, but Finding Nemo is just it's an all time classic.
so you know that there's some morbid there's some morbid things with Finding Nemo. You know
Hmm.
when Nemo Merlin lost his family and stuff like that, and Nemo was the only surviving one. There's this thing where there's this like very morbid like thing where they said that he actually died too, and he's like reincinerating that this is what happened, and he has Nemo with him, type of thing.
Oh, so
So it's
like
very morbid.
the idea is that Marlin is grieving and sort of imagining that Nemo survived,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's an interesting way to look at it. Um, I was sort of actually thinking the same thing about So I think part of where that comes from is St. Elsewhere.
Mhm.
So St. Elsewhere, 80s nighttime drama. The way they ended St. Elsewhere was they ended it as uh, the dream of an autistic child who happened to be played by Ricky Schroeder.
Mhm.
um, just like in the final episode, but I was sort of thinking the
Mhm.
same thing could be true about Big Bang Theory.
Right.
Like I'm a huge fan of the Big Bang Theory, but like the
I love
idea
that
of
show too.
yeah, but if you think about the pilot for Big Bang Theory, I envision the idea that the entire series takes place in Leonard's mind as he's watching
Right.
Penny move in across the hall.
Mhm. Yeah, it could be, you know. I kind of got to see Dave Bautista on TV taping his appearance on pre-recorded segment, and they played him
Oh,
attacking someone backstage. Interesting.
huh. That would be interesting to go to a WWE event and seeing the TV
Mhm.
production side of things.
Right.
Because I still remember because when I was, third, fourth grade, when they were doing, and that was like Hulkamania, and
Mhm.
that was when it was still not entertainment, and they were saying, "Well, no, it's real. It's a real
Right.
competition." So that was like the big debate back then, among
Mhm.
us 8, 9-year-old kids, and so that was before the openness in terms of it being entertainment. And yes, they're doing stunts, but it's not a real competition. So that'd be
That's
interesting to see.
awesome.
It'd be interesting to see a TV production what that actually looks like for WWE
Right.
or even
Yeah.
AEW because that's like the young upstart version.
Right. Yeah. I watched SmackDown and stuff like that, but I watched it when like the Hardy Boys were on there and the Dudley Boys and stuff like that.
Mm,
So early 2000s.
nice. Yeah, it was funny. Like I when once you get past that 8, 9-year-old kid mark, that's when I stopped watching and um
Right.
I actually started getting a certain amount of more respect for it when I think I was kind because I was kind of making fun of professional wrestling for a while,
Mhm.
and someone pointed out, and it wasn't me. I didn't realize this. It was just someone else. What someone else realized, and then I was kind of like, "Damn, they're actually right." And they basically said that professional wrestling is soap operas for men.
Right.
It's the same storylines, it's the same over the top emotional stuff,
Mhm.
exactly like a daytime soap opera, but with punching. So
Right.
it's all kinds of weird fashion and leotards and facial makeup and hairstyles, but with punching. So
Right.
but it's for men. Um, so I was like, God, that is a really good point. It's like the same thing as like telenovelas.
Right.
On
Mhm.
Telemundo and stuff. So yeah, I
Yeah.
thought that was kind of funny. Like, oh yeah, it really is a soap opera.
Yeah. What's the worst? Somebody's death being a dream or show being the daytime of a kid playing with the snow globe.
Yeah, yeah, and that's Saint Elsewhere, which in and
Mhm.
of itself is kind of calling back to Citizen Kane and Rosebud too. So that's like
Right.
it's just that. But the thing is too, it's they always say too that there's no original stories. It's just different variations on it, and so it's not so much what the story that they're telling, it's how well they're telling the story, I think so.
Right. I agree with you. So what would you tell somebody that's starting out on YouTube? What would you tell them?
Oh, starting out on YouTube in our space,
Hmm.
I
Like,
would
what would you
say
tell somebody?
I would say find a better niche because our space, while we love talking what we talk about, if you actually want to make money or grow an audience, there's more creators than there are viewers. So I would say focus more on a niche that is underserved in terms of viewers versus demand. Oh, sorry. Um, so I would say start with like for example, crypto. Like
Mhm.
even if you know nothing about crypto, um, I would say start a crypto channel
Right.
and approach it from the point of view of doing a crypto channel as someone who doesn't know anything about crypto because there's so much demand for crypto content. I would say do something like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I would say that, and just YouTube is fun, but it's a learning curve, and never judge your beginnings as a YouTube creator, even if you're just starting with a cell phone, with just an iPhone. If all you have is an iPhone, start with that, and don't judge yourself against creators that have 1 million followers or subscribers because they have people working for them at that point. Like, because
Right.
like with us, we're kind of on that, like you and I, we're
Mhm.
approaching 1,000 subscribers, which is what you need to, need 4,000 watch hours to monetize. But then there's people that have 10,000 subscribers or 20,000 subscribers, and then once you get that 100,000 subscriber mark, then you get the silver play button, and you're hiring editors, and then once you
Mhm.
get to like Sean Chandler, he's at 250 some odd thousand, and he has
Mhm.
an editor, and so never judge your beginnings to someone else's middle. I guess that would be
Right.
the other.
That's a good advice. Echo saying I went to some live TV show and would pre-tape segments with the fans, and then they would tell us to scream or cheer at the TV ads.
Love it.
That
Yeah,
would that would be kind of cool to go see. I never seen a WWE show live, but that would be kind of cool to go watch.
yeah, and I imagine that the commercial part of it would be interesting to watch too, because so much of it is just a live show that
Mhm.
I can't imagine watching a part two or like a take two. Like if
Mhm.
because so much of that is drama for stuff that it's upcoming.
Right.
Yeah, I would find that to be interesting to watch. Like for example, have you watched Heels with Stephen
No.
Amell? It's really, really well done, and I watched season 1, I have not seen season 2, but it is so well done, and it's basically a look at a small town independent wrestling league based in
Mhm.
Georgia, and so it talks
Okay.
about all of the tropes about professional
Mhm.
wrestling and TV watching and all that kind of stuff. It's really well done, and there's like all kinds of character actors pop up throughout it.
Oh, okay, yeah, I haven't seen
Uh,
that. The only wrestling movie that I've seen is Wrestling with My Family or Fighting with My Family about
mm,
the girl wrestler, and it had the queen from Game of Thrones in it. It's the only one that I've seen.
nice. Yeah, Heels is actually a show. It's on
Mhm.
what was it? It's on anyway. It's on one of the streaming networks or the cable networks. But it's like a 12 or 13 episode season 1, and then season 2 apparently just came out. But
Okay, yeah, and
it's
I've seen the Diva show too.
oh, nice. I have not seen that one, but yeah,
It's
this what's
it's
the
it's the wrestling show with one of the um wrestlers, and she's married to one of the guys from Dancing with the Stars that I've
hmm,
seen.
interesting.
And Larry saying, lucky enough to go see a taping of SmackDown way back in the day. There there were matches, but even before the actual taping.
That makes sense. You figure they're TV stars, right? So they gotta get practice, and I'm sure they probably don't just throw the Miz
Mm-hmm.
into like the title match if he's never been on TV before. So that makes sense that they would have, well, just sort of like UFC. UFC is one where they have the headliners, they have the Anderson Silvas, and then they have the up and coming guys um,
Right.
that haven't had that aren't the pay per view crowd yet. So that makes sense.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that it's all fake too.
That does what?
That wrestling's all fake. Wrestling's fake. A lot of people don't realize that it's fake. They think it's
Well,
real.
yeah.
Or
Well,
was
and
that?
it's yeah. That was the thing that yeah. I think they're probably a lot better off now that they're open about the
Hmm.
showbiz nature of it. But and because honestly, too, even if they're just talking about how it's a demonstration sport, or not like a sport like
Hmm.
competitive, but like it just as a demonstration of fighting skills or martial arts style skills,
Hmm.
it's still very impressive because it's performance art.
Yeah.
It's kind of kabuki but
Hmm.
Americanized.
Right. Exactly. Um. So are you? So what? Any plans for the rest of the day? Watch football all day?
Yeah, I got to catch up on my Seahawks as I look at the clock. They're probably about an hour into it. So here on the West Coast, the late games start at like 1:30 and then go until about 4. So probably catch up
Oh,
on
okay.
that one. Even though the Seahawks aren't showing here in Las Vegas for whatever
Hmm.
reason, but yeah, probably catch up a little bit on that. And then I have some editing to do. Just need to finish up on my football movie podcast editing because I need to because these live streams are great, but they don't the penetration with the algorithm only lasts about 2 or 3 days. So I like
Hmm.
re-releasing it as a standalone video, edited and kind of more bells and whistles. So I'm working on that
Dumb
too.
it down a little bit.
Yeah, mostly it's just cutting out my saying at this
Right.
point because I tend to do like you remember President Obama? Like if he does
Hmm.
if it's a State of the Union and it's all speech written out, he's great and never stutters at all. But if he's sort of impromptu
Hmm.
speaking contemporaneously, you'll get a lot of kind of stuff,
Hmm.
and I tend to do a lot of that.
I do the same thing,
Yeah,
but I just
with
keep it in there.
yeah. Well, I do it, and maybe it's just me being too picky about myself, but it's just it's all practice
Mhm.
right now, so it's one of those where I need to it's just more practice and cut out. So the edited version is sort of the idealistic version
Mhm.
of
Well, what they
of
tell
what the
me
live stream was.
at work, because we have to sell things at work. So what they tell me is when you pitch something and you're about ready to say or I don't know or whatever the case may be, they say stop and take a breath and then think about what you're gonna say.
Absolutely, that's a good one, and I would love to. That's God. That's an interesting one because I've always been on the creative side of writing, but sales
Mhm.
is something that I've never been good at. I did one summer as a telemarketer in college,
Mhm.
and I was awful at it because
Right.
the whole thing of wanting to sell somebody. But even if you're
Mhm.
just like you and I right now, we're selling ourselves, we're selling our media knowledge, our movie knowledge. So we're selling ourselves right now. But
Right.
the whole thing of sell, 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 buy, 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 all that kind of stuff
Mhm.
is still it's a skill that I'm trying to work on and get better at.
Right. Well, everybody practices every day their skills. That's
Yeah,
what life's about,
true.
is you learn something new. And I watched this TikToker, and what he says is he goes, take what you want and leave the rest. So basically, we learn from each other. So basically, take whatever works for you, and then you can leave the rest behind.
Absolutely. And even I was in a chat group for YouTube creators last night, and there was a new person to the group, and she was saying, "Well, how do I do?" Because the subject was affiliate marketing, where you do a video and you put a link in the video,
Hmm.
and if people buy by clicking on the link, you get a commission,
Yep.
small percentage
Hmm.
commission based off the product. And her question was, as a brand new creator, she was saying, "Well, how do we do this and not feel like, well, I'm profiting off of them buying into
Hmm.
what I'm saying in this product review?" And sort of the the answer that I gave her was sort of, well, instead of looking at it as a product review and because you profit from them buying it, Don't look at
Mhm.
it as a product review. Look at it as, here are 10 things you can do with
Mhm.
product X. So
Yep.
if you're uncomfortable with selling the product, instead say, well, here's 10 things I do with product X,
Right.
and you can too. So decide for yourself
Mhm.
whether or not to buy, but this is how I use product X. So I guess it's
Right.
just sort of like that, of looking at sales differently.
Mhm.
Um, and you know, and if you're like I am, where you're uncomfortable with the hard sale, like I would be the world's worst car salesman, especially used car
Right.
salesman.
I would too. I
Yeah.
would too.
Yeah. But if I was to make a video about 10 places you can drive a used car to and say, "Hey, you could go to the drive-in movies." That would be fun. That's a
Mhm.
video that I could do no problem.
Right.
So, yeah, it's
Yeah, I'm the same way. Um, all right, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this Creators Corner. Come back tonight at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I will have Sledgehammer Horror. Ken and Ashley will be on at 8:30 p.m. And guys, go follow the Dragon Movie Guy. Go follow Brian because he's awesome. And go show your support. Tell him Popping the Popcorn sent you over. He'll know.
absolutely.
And I hope you guys enjoyed this Creators Corner. And I hope everybody has a great rest of their Sunday evening. Bye, everybody.
Bye.